Behind the smiles and his dominance with Ducati Lenovo team, it turns out Marc Márquez had been hiding a level of suffering that was never truly revealed to the public. An injury that never fully healed, constant pain haunting him through every corner, and a physical condition that forced him to race as if he only had 1.5 functioning arms were finally exposed by Márquez himself. The confession immediately shocked the MotoGP paddock, as even Ducati was said to be devastated after seeing the true condition of their world champion. So just how severe was Marc Márquez's suffering that it nearly pushed his career to the brink of collapse? Let's discuss. The MotoGP world has once again been shaken by major news after Marc Márquez finally revealed the real suffering he had been hiding behind his smile with Ducati Lenovo team. It was not simply about poor results, nor was it only about failing to reach the podium in the opening rounds of the 2026 MotoGP season. For the first time, Marc admitted that he had been racing while enduring unbearable pain in his right shoulder due to an old injury that never truly recovered after the horrifying crash at the MotoGP Mandalika 2025. In an emotional video released by Ducati, Marc even delivered a shocking confession that instantly silenced the MotoGP paddock. He admitted that he had been racing with only 1.5 arms. That statement immediately became a massive alarm for Ducati course and the entire 2026 MotoGP paddock. Many finally began to understand why Marc's performances this season looked completely different compared to the aggressive rider who had dominated MotoGP for so many years. The 2025 season was indeed one of the darkest periods in Marc Márquez's career. A brutal crash in Mandalika last October caused serious damage to his shoulder and forced him to miss the final 4 races of the season. At the time, many believed Marc would return stronger in 2026 after undergoing a lengthy recovery process. But the reality turned out to be far worse than anyone had expected. Although he managed to return to racing with Ducati Lenovo team in 2026, Marc's performances looked inconsistent from the opening round. The rider, nicknamed the Baby Alien, appeared to struggle whenever he had to fight in aggressive battles, especially during extreme braking and rapid direction changes that had always been his greatest strengths. In the first 5 rounds of the 2026 MotoGP season, Marc failed to secure even a single podium finish. The situation felt shocking considering he is a multiple-time Premier-class world champion and is now riding the Ducati Desmosedici, a bike widely considered the best package on the current grid. But apparently, Marc's biggest problem was not the motorcycle itself. In his confession, Marc finally revealed that bolts and components from previous surgeries had started interfering with the movement of his shoulder. Some parts were even said to be pressing against the radial nerve in his right shoulder area. That condition was what caused the pain to keep returning every time he pushed the bike to its absolute limit. Marc also revealed that he had already scheduled another surgery after the Catalunya Grand Prix. He realised that the condition could no longer be forced if he wanted to save his MotoGP career. The confession immediately raised concerns inside Ducati, as they realised one of their main riders had been battling through extreme pain on every lap. The situation became even worse when Marc Márquez suffered a terrifying high-side crash during the sprint race at the 2026 French Grand Prix in Le Mans. Marc had actually looked incredibly fast from practice sessions all the way through qualifying. He was even considered one of the strongest favourites to win the sprint race after showing outstanding pace throughout the weekend. But everything changed dramatically once the race began. At the start of the sprint race, Marc was still able to stay with the leading group. However, his rhythm gradually dropped in a strange way. Several paddock observers noticed that Marc's Ducati appeared to lose rear grip midway through the race. Marc was also seen struggling multiple times to maintain the racing line coming out of fast corners. Then disaster finally struck on the closing laps. While trying to defend his position, Marc lost control and suffered a brutal high-side crash that violently launched him into the gravel. That crash instantly turned the Ducati Lenovo team garage into a tense and emotional scene. It wasn't just because Marc Márquez failed to finish the race, but because the incident once again raised major concerns about the physical condition of the world champion. After undergoing medical examinations, Marc was diagnosed with a fracture of the fifth metatarsal bone in his right foot. The injury forced him to miss both the main race at French Motorcycle Grand Prix and the 2026 Catalan Motorcycle Grand Prix. However, it turned out that the foot injury was not the main issue. After returning to Madrid, Marc immediately underwent 2 surgeries at Roubaix International Hospital. The first operation was performed to repair the injury to his right foot, while the second became the centre of attention throughout the entire paddock because it involved the long-term shoulder injury that had secretly been destroying his performance for years. Ducati eventually revealed a shocking fact. The metal plate and components from Marc's previous surgery had shifted ever since his crash at Mandalika in 2025. There was even a bone fragment pressing against the radial nerve in his right shoulder area. The medical team, led by Dr. Samuel Antuna, successfully removed 2 screws and the problematic bone fragment during surgery. Ducati executives reportedly gave Marc their full support, encouraging him to focus entirely on a complete recovery without rushing back to racing. Ducati realised that forcing Marc to continue competing in that condition could seriously threaten his future in MotoGP, especially because Marc's riding style has always relied heavily on extreme upper body strength in his shoulders and arms to save the bike at the absolute limit. Amid Marc Márquez's difficult situation, Ducati also endured a nightmare weekend at Le Mans. After losing Marc in the sprint race crash, Ducati's hopes of salvaging the main race rested on the shoulders of Francesco Bagnaia. But disaster struck again. While trying to chase down Marco Bezzecchi, who delivered an incredible performance for Aprilia Racing, Bagnaia suddenly lost front-end grip and crashed out. The double crashes involving Marc Márquez and Bagnaia sent Ducati home from Le Mans without a victory and without a podium finish. The situation immediately sparked major questions about the characteristics of the Ducati Desmosedici GP, which many now consider too aggressive when pushed to its absolute limit. Many observers have started to believe Ducati may have already reached the maximum potential of its bike, while Aprilia has begun showing greater stability and consistency throughout race weekends. Meanwhile, Gigi Dall'Igna reportedly stepped in personally to launch an internal investigation into Marc Márquez's bike. Ducati believed Marc's sudden drop in performance during the sprint race was far too extreme compared to the incredible pace he had shown throughout practice and qualifying sessions. The bike's telemetry data was immediately analysed in detail to determine whether technical issues, setup problems, or other factors contributed to the crash. But behind all the suffering, many fans have gained even greater respect for Marc Márquez. Despite the constant pain haunting his body, he still chose to fight at the highest level of MotoGP. Can Marc Márquez's 2026 MotoGP season still be saved after all this injury drama and poor performance? Share your thoughts in the comments below.